In this video, we will learn how to instantiate objects randomly throughout the scene, as well as how to add visual cues to easily see how well the agent is performing. Hey everyone, welcome back to the tutorial series for Pellet Grabber. In this episode, we're going to be making the environment a little more complex. We're going to have multiple pellets spawning. They're going to be in random locations, just like the single one here. There's going to be multiple, and we're going to add some visual effects to make it easier to tell during the training process, other than, just looking at the output to see if things are, going smoothly or not with the training. If, we're like, oh, hey, they're getting better, or oh, they're not getting better. So having to sit there and wait to see if there's going to be improvement, we can have a visual effect. But first, we're going to start off with just making the multiple pellets spawn quickly. So we're going to hop over here into the script. And let's start with a new function. We're going to go right above collect option. We're going to minimize these because we don't need to use them. We're going to go right below on episode and right above the public or the collect observations. And we're going to do a private void. We're going to call it CreatePellet. And so in CreatePellet, we're going to have a for loop because we're going to want to be able to do multiple. And so we might as well we'll loop through and just call the same code over and over again. And the reason why we're doing a for loop is something that's going to come later on. Actually, we might. Yeah, no, we're going to do a for loop because we're going to be creating a list in order to keep track of everything. And until we have that list, we can't, use a for each loop to loop through it. We're going to be creating the list dynamically as we go. So int I, and you can name this whatever variable you want. I just do I because that's kind of just the standard that I was taught. And so you could pick something, better. You could put counter. You could put probably not pellet count because we're using that right here. But something that is a bit more readable if you want to. I'm just going to stick with I. It'll do the exact same thing. So it doesn't know what pellet count is. We'll tell it what pellet count is. Essentially, right now we're saying as long as the counter I is less than the amount of pellets that we want to create, we're going to keep going. So we'll tell it what pellet count is in a little bit. We're going to create. Actually, I'm going to add comments for this, just make it easier for everyone to follow along, especially if you don't know coding much. It's not too complicated, but if you're not used to programming, then especially reading code, then it might be a little confusing at first to follow along. So spawning pellet, this is going to be the code just to spawn a pellet in. We're going to do game object, new pellet equals instantiate, and this is a Unity function, and food. It's not going to know what food is currently. Did I spell this right? Instantiate does not exist in the current context. I do not. Instantiate. Actually, oh, okay, missing the N. There we go. We'll tell it what food is. In fact, let's go up and create our variables right now. So we can separate these. This will be, I'm going to put some comments, agent variables. We can combine these because they're both for the agent. Call this one pellet variables. And so in the pellet variables, we have the transform. We're going to have a public int pellet count. Maybe you should make this serialized private. We're just going to have it as public right now because eventually all of this is going to get moved over into another script to have it separate from the agent because ideally you want to have everything separate. We're going to have the pellet count, and we're going to have a public game object, if I can spell it, public game object food. So that's what we're passing in through the instantiate. And this one we're going to have as a private list, a serialized field, and a private list game object. So it's a list of type game object. And we're going to call it spawned pellets list. It's going to equal a new list of type game object. And those will be all the variables that we're going to need for this. Actually, almost all the variables that we'll need. We'll add a couple more when we get to those. Just save right here. Go down to our CreatePellet again. And so we've instantiated a new one. This will essentially just going to spawn it in. Just right there in the middle, like what we've been doing so far, except it won't be in a random location yet. We're going to make the pellet, pellet, the child of the environment. And the reason why we do this is because it's going to always instantiate at 0, 0 right now, or around 0, 0 when we give it a random location. But when we move our areas, like if we go back here, when we have these multiple copies, they're all getting moved around. And we don't want them all to be spawning at 0, 0, because then they're all going to be either right here, if this one's at 0, 0, or they might be over here, or somewhere far off the screen. We don't want that. So we're going to make it a child of the environment. So new pellet dot transform dot parent equals, we're going to call it environment location. And it doesn't know what that is. So we're going to go back up here and we're going to create a new section. It's going to be environment variables. In fact, I put in variables right there. And for creating this environment, we're going to do serialize because we want to be able to drag it in. So serialize field. Oops, I'm going to put this a private transform environment. Oops, in Viro. Whenever I do these, I can never spell. That's why I'm missing the I. Oh wait, I can just copy and paste. That's why we copied it. Environment location. And so we'll assign this, all of these that we've been making, we'll assign them in the editor, so we don't need to do that in the code. Then we're going to go back down to CreatePellet. We've assigned this location, and so we're telling it, hey, if we go back to here, this is the center. We want you to spawn here. But we don't want that. We want it to be random, right? So we're going to give a random spawn location. And it's already spawned in with Instantiate. You could give a location with the Instantiate function. There's different parameters you could pass through. I recommend checking out the documentation to find out about that. But we're doing it this way because given what we're going to be aiming to do, at least as far as I've made this so far, this is going to be, most useful for us, easiest to manipulate. And so we're going to do it. We're going to make a vector3, and it's going to be pellet location. And we're going to just essentially go up here. We're going to just grab this. So it's going to be this location now. In fact, we can just comment this out. We're not going to need that at all because it's happening here. And then we want to set the pellet's location to the spawn location. So spawn, we'll even put this in quotes because technically it's already spawned in. Spawn in new location. And so we're going to do new pellet dot transform dot local position. So it's basically the exact same thing that we were doing here. Dot local position equals pellet location. We're just moving it to this new location. You could have done this all probably in one step and just had, this equal, put that right there, equal to that. I like having it separate, just a bit more obvious what's going on. Oh, okay, we're setting the pellet location and we're setting the new pellet's location to this. And also then we have access to the location for other things if we ever need it. And now we're going to add to list. If I can spell list. Add to list. So spawned pellets list dot add, and it's going to be new pellet. And so now we have that added in, and it's just going to keep looping until we fill that. And so now we've gone and we've created CreatePellet. We're going to go down. Do we need to modify here? We do actually, yeah, because after we grab one pellet, it's gonna end. It's gonna be like, oh, hey, you're done. But let's say we had 2 pellets there and we grab one, we don't want it to end. We have 3 and we only grab 1, we don't want it to end either. We grab 2, we don't want it to end. We want it to end when we have all of them, or when we make contact with a wall. And so we can delete this. And what we're going to first want to do, because we made a list, and we're using that list to keep track of how many pellets there are. So we want to remove from the list. So spawned pellets list dot remove, and it doesn't really matter which one we remove necessarily. Well, we're going to make it matter, but technically, we're only tracking it to find the number of pellets there, not which specific ones are left. So if you have another way of removing it, you're more than welcome to try it and see if it works. But we're going to just remove the specific one that we're getting, which is probably the easiest way to go. So .gameObject. And we do have a spawn. Oh, it's probably spawned, right? Yep, spawned pellets list. And then we're going to destroy the game object because we don't need it anymore. So destroy other.gameObject. And this will remove it from the list. This will remove it from the world. So we don't, have to keep encountering it, because that's going to be an issue is when we come back here and say, hey, that object's not part of this list. And it'll break everything. So this now removes it, but we don't have a reward or an end to our environment. And actually, I'm looking at my example script. It looks like I forgot. We do want to have a reward here. So we want to reward it every time we get a pellet, obviously. And so we're going to do an add reward. And we're going to do 10F. That seems really high compared to what we've been doing. And we might, maybe need to do some experimenting to see if, you can get away with lower values, or maybe it'll run better with lower values. These are what I found worked fairly well. So we'll add a reward. Then we're going to do if, let's just copy so I don't have to write this again, spawned pellets list dot count. If it is equal to 0, meaning that the list is now empty, we've run into every pellet that there is, then we're going to add a reward of, we'll do 5F. So if it gets everything, so a little boost. So it's going to have incentive now to get all of them. So not only is it going to get every reward here that's possible, it'll get a little extra as well. And then we can end episode, which I'll just copy from here. Now, when we hit a wall, there's nothing we necessarily need to do right now. It's going to be basically the same, subtract a reward. In fact, I actually made it a much larger value that's being abducted. So you're not going to want, not abducted, deducted. So it's going to really want to avoid hitting a wall. Might backfire, shouldn't, but it might. And if we see it really hesitating to move at all, then we'll lower the deduction. But I think that it balances out well because there tends to be a lot more pellets. So it's like, there's 4 pellets out there and get 40 versus negative 15. 40 is significantly better. If there's only 1 pellet, it's 10 versus losing 15. I think that's how it works a bit better. Now, if we were to run this, everything should work fairly well. Oops, there we go. I minimized that. So let's go and we'll access the prefab here. Access the agent. If we go down here to the controller, we can see there's pellet count. Let's say we want to have not 30, 3 food. We don't have anything for food, so we're going to actually take this pellet down here, drag it there, and delete this one. If we don't delete that one, then there will always be that initial one there, and that's going to mess up our counter a good bit because it won't take it into consideration. So it wasn't spawned in; it was just there. So we'll give it this item, the environment location. I believe that should just be the plane. And I believe that's going to be everything. We can see this list here, so we'll see it fill. Oh, target as well, because we deleted that. So we're going to want to throw that in there. Let's save, keep this clicked on just to see. Oh, also we're going to want, well, you know, we'll see if the agent will run on its own, I suppose. We didn't have anything spawn in. Oh, let's actually exit this and see nothing spawned. There's probably some errors in the console. No, there aren't any errors. So let's figure out what's going on here. We'll look back in here. We'll look at the agent. Environment list, it's plain. We don't need to look at rigid body. We should have some pellets spawning in. So how about we go over here and we'll do a debug for when things spawn. So we'll do a debug.log spawned. And so this will just print out in the console telling us that, hey, something spawned. And we should be able to see that. So let's go, we'll make this heuristic. So we'll control it ourselves. And we'll see if this outputs anything. Oh, actually, I think I know what the issue is. Yeah, I know. Yeah, nothing spawned either. But it just popped into my mind. I'm going to copy this. We're going to go up to onEpisodeBegin. We never call this. So we need to call CreatePellet so that way it'll actually, you know, create pellets. The reason why there was none there is because we deleted the one up here. If we hadn't, that one would still show up. And that would be a bit of an issue. So now we should see something populate here, as well as obviously on the screen. No, our pellet list is actually empty. It doesn't show anything there. But we are able to collect. Let's see if it'll work. So it works. Our list isn't populating now. And we would like to have that show up for us. So let's try to just search through here to see. So we create this spawned pellets list. And we add the new pellet to it. Location. It should be filling here. So it's not looping specific number that we want. Pellet count. How many pellet count is there? Yeah, it's only spawning once. It's not actually looping through, which is interesting. Except it has to be because it's spawning in multiple. Let me mess with this a little bit and just see if I can spot what's going on. It's interesting. So we can see it has 2 and 2 there, it shows. And I do this, that one ticks up to 3 for 2 left, for 1 left, and for 0 left. And then it resets. That never happened before. It would always print out like, 2, 1, 0, spawned, and then it would say spawn, spawn. And then it would go 2, 1. I don't know why it's doing this. I think it must be something that I messed with by accident in the editor. But regardless of that, oh wait, we're looking at here. That's probably why it's not. Hold on. Let me look at this. Hit play. That might be what's going on. Come on, load. There we go. Look at that 3. And so let's see, that one, it still shows it's a weird output, but we do see it's moving now, which is a good thing. So now there is a bug still, and it's a quote unquote bug. There's actually just a feature we haven't implemented yet, and that's, how there's 3 here. We hit a wall, now there's 6, then there's 9. It just keeps going and going, and this list keeps going. So we need to clear this list out. That's something we still need to do. So now we're going to be working on a function that we're going to call RemovePellet. It's going to be a fairly simple function. Actually, it wasn't simple to figure out, at least for me. It took a little while, and then I found out there's a function call in Unity called destroy that does exactly, or no, it does, you can call from a game object or from a list.clear and just wipes the list. And I was like, oh, that's so easy. If I was trying to make it myself and it just wasn't working like it should work. So we're gonna go underneath the CreatePellet. We're gonna do private void RemovePellet. And inside of here, we're going to do a for each loop. And this is how I figured out you can't delete things from a list in a for each, because I would try and it would spit out an error. So that's when I was trying to make a whole other loop in order to remove. But we don't have to do that. So game object I, and again, you can name that whatever you want. It's just a variable. To be deleted game object list. You could also do something much shorter. And you'd be like, what is that? And I realized I forgot. We're passing a list into this. It's going to be a list of type game object, and we're going to call it that. And so now in here, what we're going to do, we're going to call the destroy function. Destroy, and it's going to be I.gameObject. And that's basically it. That's going to destroy all remaining game objects. But we still have the list to clear. So we're going to take that list, and oops, we're not going to do the list. We're going to do clear. And that'll clear out the list. So great. This is done. Now we need to just implement this. So the first thing we're going to do, and this might not be necessary to have in there anymore. Back when we added the face last episode, and I was mentioning how, we got to remove the colliders because there'll be an issue with colliding and stuff for literally this episode here. I implemented this fix in order to combat that until I realized what the issue was. And actually, it didn't even quite completely fix the issue. Removing the colliders did. But it's still something that I think we should just have just as a precaution in case something happens somehow. We end the episode without clearing everything in. So we're just going to check if spawned pellets list dot count. If it does not equal 0, then we're just going to call RemovePellet. And that's it. RemovePellet, and then of course we need to pass the list in. And so we're going to call that, and we're going to copy this just because we're going to be adding it into a few other spots. We're going to go down to OnTriggerEnter. And when we're in here, we're going to, we should already have everything cleared. The count is 0, but just in case, somehow it ends up as a negative value, which I think should just throw an error in general. But just in case, we're going to go and we're going to pass this to remove. And of course, if we hit a wall, we want to remove as well. So now let's go down here and just see if this works. So we'll go and we'll run the agent. We'll wait for it to load. Okay, and now we can see over here there's 3. Now there's 2, 1, and 0. Now that already worked. We already knew that was going to work. So instead, let's grab 1. And then swoop over here, and there's only 3. So it cleared it. It did work. And grab 2, and boom. There's just 3, and there's still only 3. So that works out great. Which now brings us to just the very last part of what we're going to work on for this episode. And then it's the visual part, the thing that's just going to help us kind of see what's going on during the training process without having to look at the numbers. Of course, the numbers are still nice to look at. But this is also really nice to look at. So let's go back into our script. And we're going to create a couple variables. We'll create them under the environment variable. And it's going to be a material. And we're just going to call it environment material. And then we're going to create a game object. It's going to be a public game object. We're going to call it env. And so then in our initialize function, we're going to want to be able to get this component for the material, environment, material. And I suppose we could, if we made it public, assign it ourselves and all of that. But we're going to do it in code. So environment.get component. And we're going to grab it from the renderer. And it's going to be of dot material. And so this will grab whatever the material is for the environment. And I think I misspelled. I did. I hit component. I'm going to save. And then we're going to just pass and fail should we collect everything or if we should run into a wall. Let's do the wall one first. We're going to do env material because that's what we named the variable. You name it something different. You can do something. You can, write the name that you did. Color. And we're going to set it to color.red. Red will mean we fail. And we're going to do the exact same thing up here. If we complete the entire thing, we're going to do color.green. And that's it. Now you could, if you wanted to, you could initialize the color specific one for every time it resets, but I think this is okay. When we have a bunch of them running, it's nice to be able to see, like, oh, okay, it's been green for a long time. Either it's stuck or it's doing really well. And we'll have a way of telling if it's stuck or not in the future. We'll be utilizing this environment material color. But let's go and we'll just test this. Let it load in. Okay. Oh, we already collected one. Oh, we didn't set what the environment is. So let's go back to project, open this, go to agent, and then we'll just drag this environment in. That's the game object. Save, and let's run it. Now it should work. But you can see there was already a pellet missing. We spawned on top of it, so we immediately ate it. That's what I was going to say until I realized the error. We almost spawned on top of that one. We'll address the spawning issues in the future, probably next episode. Oh, am I running into another error? I have no renderer attached to the environment game object. Oops. Do we not have a renderer? Oh, never mind. Sorry. Wrong thing. We want to go back to agent. Wait, this should be the environment. And we have a renderer. So what's the issue? Or no, that's for there. We don't. Let me check into this and just see. I think I identified what the issue was. We got these mixed up, which apparently we don't need a separate plane for this. We could just use the environment because it was working so far. But we'll go and we'll separate them. Let me actually go back in here. My bad, didn't mean to leave. So we're going to put plane here, and we will put the environment up here in environment location. Now that should fix it. Let's see. Load in. Oh, okay, so far so good. Click on the agent. You can see there's 3 pellets, and you can see the pellets are there as well. But now if we come over here, we hit this one, and this one, it sets it to green. We run into this, sets it to red, everything resets. That's great. And now to see this in full action, we'll exit here, go back into the environment, set the agent over to default, back out. We will then do this and unhide everything. And go and see what this looks like now. So save, go over to here, file grabber tutorial A, show and explorer, go through here, assets, or sorry, not assets, we just need to do command. And then we'll do mlvenv /scripts /activate. And then from here, we'll just run the command MLAgents. We're using the default command --run -id equals multi pellet run 1. This, wait for it to load up. Apparently there is an issue. Could not be found at that. Oh, am I in the wrong? Oh, I'm not in the wrong location, am I? Maybe I need to go back. I mess up here. Am I forgetting what I'm doing? I think I'm forgetting what I'm doing. Let me double check my command. I spotted a typo in what I was doing. I had a space here. That's probably the issue. It's like, oh, you're calling it equal, but what does this mean? Let's see. See if that was the issue. Yep, that was the issue. Typo. Be careful on what you type, guys. So let's run this. We'll open this back up just to follow. And you can see everything's turning red now. And we should see things go green. All right, and I'm just gonna, oh, there we go. I'm just gonna wait until the next one. We're gonna end there. And then let's just see how it runs now at, normal speed instead of at the 20 times speed that we're watching it at. So enter here, agent, oh wait, first we gotta actually copy it over. So we'll go over to here to results, and it'll be multi-pellet run, agent controller. We're actually going to call this multi-pellet. And the reason why I'm changing the name here instead of changing it later or just leaving it is we should have already in here, oops, I'm going way too far back, in assets, we have more movement, we have side brain, and we have this one, which is, I believe the last one. So I think it's going to be single pellet. And I think it'd be fun just to see how it does comparing them. So let's go and we'll see how single pellet does. Adopt metadata exists with that, cannot be found. Please ensure the corresponding is moved or deleted along with it. I haven't really done any of that. But let's just, we'll stick with not doing that and see how it goes. Let's move this guy in so that way we can see his raycast. We will save and let's run. And then we'll do the new brain that we just made and see how it compares, if it seems like it's about the same or not. I think it'll probably be about the same. Is there? Oh. Wait, is he still for us to move? No. Oh, but when we do in the environment, it doesn't, okay, it doesn't change the model over. Okay, well, then let's change it here. We'll do single pellet. We already know side brain doesn't really, do anything. We could always, I guess, continue training on it and just see, watch it learn not to just move side to side. But for right now, we're just gonna keep training. Right now, it seems like it's doing well. It's not going to know... It'll still know how to search, because it has to find that initial one. But it's probably not going to be as fast as our current one, because it doesn't know to be looking for multiple. It's just always looking. But maybe it's going to be the same. Maybe, you know, the one that we made doesn't care that it knows that there's always multiple or not. So far, it doesn't look like it's going to care. Let's load up the other brain, and then I think I'll go quiet while this one runs so you guys can kind of just watch it. Oh no, I'm hitting pellet. Yeah, we want up here. So multi-pellet, and I'll go quiet while it runs. Okay. I'm not sure if it did any better or not. I feel like it acted a little different, like maybe a bit more, it was searching a bit more, but I'll have to, when I'm going through the footage, actually compare it. You guys, let me know down below. Do you think it did better with the new brain versus the old brain being trained on multiple objects or not? I'm not too sure if it, was too different, but I was also more focused on everything else going on when I was setting that one up, whereas the second one I was really just watching. And so yeah, we'll see. Next time, I'm thinking we're just going to probably address how the pellets spawn, so that way they're not overlapping. Maybe we'll include this guy in that to see. But until then, I hope that you all found this tutorial useful. I hope that you're all experimenting with ML agents and you maybe have some cool projects to show or talk about. I'd love to hear about them or see them if you post them at all. And yeah, with that, I hope to see you all next time. See ya.